Can anybody ever believe any band ever when they say they're doing a farewell tour? I honestly don't know how anybody could ever believe it, ever. No band made a bigger deal out of not coming back than Motley Crue, and they are coming back. There has not been, and we talked about this on Hair Nation last night, I don't think there has ever been a band that has done a farewell and not come back in some way, shape, or form. However, I stumbled upon one last night that I really didn't think about and got overlooked a little bit, and I'm surprised I didn't think of this, because I know these guys extremely well, and I was the catalyst for their initial reunion back in 2001 for a benefit show I did for 9/11, and that's Twisted Sister. They, for a long time, for the last couple of years, I've been half jokingly saying that Motley Crue was the only band, and saying Motley Crue is on the clock, meaning will they ever renege and come back? And now we know they have. But I always forget about Twisted Sister, who did a final farewell, and that was around the same time as Motley, I think, and they have still not come back. So there actually is one, and it's Dee and the boys. Now, they recently reunited and did like an autograph signing thing. But it wasn't a concert. But I think Twisted may be the only one that we have. So you can make what you want of the Motley thing. I understand all sides of it. I understand. And in talking to fans yesterday, there are fans that couldn't care less about the contract, just happy they got their band back. There are fans that are upset because they laid it all out to do the farewell deal and believed in it. And I had a guy, I don't mean to laugh, but he was laughing too. I had a guy call my Hair Nation show last night that got divorced over going to see Motley Crue on the farewell tour.
Wait, what?
He was so convinced. He called in. I couldn't make this up. He was convinced it was the end. He was having some troubles anyway with his wife. I guess money was tight. He didn't care. He drove to wherever the gig was, had to go, spent whatever little money he had, last chance to see his favorite band, and it was the final straw, he said, in him getting divorced. And now he's pissed. I had another guy call up who came up with as much money as he could to do the VIP meet and greet, because he's like, this is the last chance I can ever do this. And now he's like 3.5, 4 years later. No, it's not actually. And he's pissed. And then there's a ton of people who are just, fans are fans. The hardcore don't care. Hey, my band's back. I don't give a shit. Motley Crue is not the first and will certainly not be the last to do this. Again, I don't know of a band that, beyond Twisted, who's the only one I can think of, who ever said farewell and stayed away. And you can't count Rush, because even though they did give a little wink, this could be the end, they never played the farewell card. And they are seemingly done. But Motley Crue is going to be under scrutiny about this from some people, simply because Motley Crue is certainly not the only band to ever do this by any stretch. It's way more the norm, obviously, but they are the band that by far made the biggest deal out of not doing this and are doing it. So that's why it's so interesting, and getting differing thoughts about it, and people, how they feel about it, and hearing from fans about it is really, really interesting. And the last thing here, before we get a couple news items from Ed, and then we'll take some calls. And then hour number 2 is going to be a mailbag hour. So we're going to dig into the Trunk Nation mailbag and answer some emails, because I got to catch a flight. But let me share this with you, because now this has been up for almost 24 hours. So yesterday, on my Twitter, I posted a poll. And I was really curious to see from Twitter universe, and presumably some of you guys as well, because I'm sure some of you voted here also, what the vibe would be about this announcement. Now, this poll has been up about 22 hours on Twitter at Eddie Trunk. So you have basically for the rest of this show to vote if you want to vote on the poll. Just go to my Twitter and click it off. So I posted, now that Motley Crue has officially announced they will tour again, how do you feel as a fan? And the options in the poll that I put were, I'm all in, welcome back, indifferent, or angry and duped. Those were your three options and still are for the next couple hours for this poll that I put on Twitter. So far, 13,700 people about have voted. And there's still a couple hours left. Interesting statistics. All in, welcome back is at 40%. Indifferent is currently at 39%. Angry duped is at 21%. So that's all you need to know about fans being fans. It basically supports my theory. There are a ton of people who just don't care. If you're a fan, you are happy your band is active. It is kind of fascinating to me. And I would take those people as being, putting them in the category as not necessarily major Motley Crue fans, and they don't care either way. That's probably the sort of category that when they tour is going to be like, hey, if I get a reasonable ticket, maybe I'll go. If not, I don't care.
You know, there may be another way to read that number. It's not exactly apathy, but it might be, they might be Crue fans. They might be happy, but you know what? To them, this is expected. You know, bands come back. Reunion tours don't matter. So, all right, Motley Crue, much like Ozzy, much like The Who, much like Kiss, oh, they're back for another tour.
It goes back to my earlier point is that I don't think anybody believes any band ever, and they shouldn't, that it's a farewell. You cannot be duped by that anymore. You can't. Look at history. Ozzy started this in 92. The Who started it in 82. You cannot. You got to just give it. You got to just laugh at this point. And the angry duped percentage at 21% currently would be our guy that got divorced. or the guy, I don't mean to laugh, but again, the guy was laughing at it himself last night. Or the guy, or the people. I never thought about that until someone called in about the whole VIP thing. Like, those are thousands of dollars, and if you don't normally do that, and you don't have that kind of money, and you scrape and claw to do that because it's your final swing. I didn't even take that into consideration because I've never bought a VIP in my life. But that's a big factor as well. So you got, this poll closes out in 2 more hours. If you haven't voted and you'd like to, it's fascinating to see these numbers. It's now just jumped up to about 13,718 as far as people who have voted. It's on my Twitter feed. I have about 270,000 Twitter followers, so only a small percentage are. They're definitely indifferent because only 14,000 almost have voted. But still, it's a real interesting sample to see how people are feeling about all this. Ed, do you have anything else newsworthy that you want to hit me with before we break, and then we'll get to some calls?
You know, just 2 things here. Ozzy is set to make his return to the stage. That's right, this Sunday at the American Music Awards, he's going to do that Post Malone song that he's on, alongside that guy and Travis Scott. So Ozzy returning to the stage in some capacity.
Okay.
Yeah. And mind you, this falls under the banner of, this is a TMZ report. There's no official statement. There's never been from either Eddie Van Halen or the Van Halen camp. But in a report from TMZ, Eddie Van Halen is back at home following a hospitalization due to complications from his cancer treatment, as per their story. The Van Halen guitarist and rock legend was admitted to the hospital last week due to a bad reaction to drugs Eddie is taking in his battle with throat cancer. He has been released and is back home and reportedly doing fine now.
This was a major, major thing that TMZ put out yesterday that completely got lost in all of the Motley Crue stuff. And again, we have to, as Ed prefaced, this is from TMZ, which is a gossip outlet. However, as I've said often, TMZ about 98% of the time turns out to be accurate. You don't last that long, and you don't become one of the most successful TV and media outlets if you don't have some substance to what you're putting out there. And most of the time, I'm not saying this story is right, but most of the time they have proven to be correct. So what else can you say that we haven't said a billion times when it comes to the never-ending Van Halen saga? We just don't know, because they do not talk and communicate. So we don't know, and we are left to hear and see reports like this and wonder what's real and what's not.
The only other gateway we have into his world is photos posted via his son Wolfgang to the internet.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And I mentioned this. There was a photo making the rounds like 2 or 3 weeks ago that Eddie visited an orthopedic guy. And the orthopedic doctor took a photo with Eddie Van Halen and I guess posted it on social media. It was like 2-3 weeks ago this photo was taken. And that made news. A simple photo of Eddie Van Halen standing with a doctor made news. Guy wasn't even a cancer doctor. He was just a bone guy, orthopedic, whatever. And I commented on it, whatever news outlet or posted it on Twitter. I commented on it. I said, we are truly in bizarro land that a simple photo of Eddie Van Halen is newsworthy. I think much like I said the other day, I don't think Motley Crue wanted to have to announce this soon. They probably wanted to announce it more in conjunction with rolling out dates and all that. But I think this story broke and became such a big thing and was just so everywhere that they figured, you know what, let's just address it and say we're doing it and we'll let the other chips fall as we go. And in a way, I think that that may work to their benefit, because by just throwing it out there and letting it sit for a week or 2 or 3 weeks until they ever fully announce what they're going to do, it lets the sort of drama about them actually coming back and breaking their own contract dissipate a little bit. Now, I'm not saying it's still not going to be a huge talking point among any responsible media. It will be. But it lets everyone sort of pull that apart before they actually, and then when they announce a tour, it can be maybe more focused on that. I'm sure they hope then, you guys swore you were never coming back. What's going on here? But the Eddie Van Halen situation, they won't break. This thing's been in the news in a million different ways and a million different outlets, and they still won't crack. It's truly, truly bizarre and crazy. And I hope whatever's happened, all I've ever said is I hope whatever is really happening with Eddie, he's okay. At the end of the day, that's all that really matters.